today is about, it's a sort of coming together of a lot of the works of the people who are involved in the Dynamic Drawing Forum. And it's about seeing that work all together in a group and seeing what that means and what kind of questions that brings up about art practice. It's very much about sort of like evolution, like creative evolution, I suppose, if you could put it that way. Because it's not about what we know, it's about what we don't know, and the vastness of what we don't know, which is hinted at by some of the things that are revealed in these works. And it's the implication of the works that where the beauty begins is in the implication of the works. It's not in any sort of sense of finality, but it's where it's leading. So, when I started doing dynamic drawing classes, I didn't work with any specific knowledge or any specific assumption about what my role was. I discovered my role through the asking of questions and through looking at how other people were responding to the themes that we were working on. And as you go into that further and further, the dimension of that gets vaster and vaster. And it's very, it's very humbling. It's a sort of very humbling thing, and it's very, it's hard to know at any point exactly what that means, but structures reveal themselves. There's solid geometry in there. There's elegance in the contradictions, and these are the things that create art, is ambiguities. That's the asking, the debates, is where the arts come off out of that kind of debates on a very personal level, on a very intimate level, and things become thematic. They multiply. They don't remain. The nature is in a constant sort of state of change.
Dynamic drawing. What do you think I know the end product is something on paper, but what do you think you're actually teaching or facilitating through the group? I see my role as a conduit to other people's deep curiosities. I see it as a place where I can give opportunities to other people's need for spirit and nourishment and for creativity. If I can provide strategies that help people meet themselves in what they're doing, then I feel I have a role to play. But if you asked me what my job was, I couldn't possibly answer you, because every week I go in there, I'm a different guy, I'm a different entity, I'm under challenge, I'm changing shape, I'm neither big nor small, So for you, that must have taken some time to sit with that?
I've never had a plan, and it has taken me, it's a kind of like, I feel that my role in what I'm doing is now more legitimate, perhaps, than what I felt in the beginning, because when I first started doing it, I couldn't see the link up so much, but I had a really strong hunch where it was all heading, but I couldn't. Now I can see the patterns a little bit more clearly, and it's kaleidoscopic. It's like having a kaleidoscope or a merry-go-round or something, or being on a merry-go-round. I can't, again, it's a kind of really big question, because it's the people who I work with that provide me with my existence, because they provide me with the narratives that I talk about. So it's like a massive game of tennis. I can't. There's so many different people involved in what I'm doing, and every one of them is important, and every one of them has a legitimate offering to make, and it's only sometimes after I've stepped out of a class situation that I realise the full impact of what just happened. It's like a plane going over and then hearing the sound about 7 seconds later. It's that kind of zone of difference. So I know it's quite serious. I'm not even joking. It's really, that actually happens. And but as I was saying earlier, a lot of that It's in the fracturing and the impact and in the crises that the work happens. It doesn't happen in any kind of predictable or packaged way. I say to people, unwrap images, don't try and wrap them up, don't gift wrap your art, don't, the minute you start talking about acceptance or acknowledgement or cost, you're starting trade-offs, and trade-offs will destroy you. Because you have to develop faith in what you're doing, no matter what the cost.
But I would think that participants would get that strength because you have that strength.
Well,
in some way.
The questions visit me. Let's put it that way. And whether or not I have that strength, sometimes, like today, I'm really exhausted from setting all this up, and I feel quite vulnerable. But I'm not going to hide from my vulnerability, because I feel it's in acknowledging vulnerability. There's a strength in acknowledging vulnerability. Like in art, you could say that someone like Van Gogh was a high innocent, because there's an innocence in his work that's almost unbelievable. There's an incredible innocence in his work, but an undeniable fire and power that you just cannot define. It's not going to be logical. The history of art is not a history of 1 and 1 makes 2. It's more like 1 and 1 makes 3. That's where it's residing, and that's hard for people to get around, because we walk around with so many walls and white lines and things like that around us, that it's hard to make the break. Sometimes I feel like I'm working for a cult busting organisation,
But so back to when did you make the break? I think one of the questions was when did
I make the break personally?
Did you
probably
have to go through living?
Well, to be quite honest, I think that I made the break when I left my home and went off as a young teenager and went surfing. And I saw some very beautiful parts of Australia, and I started to feel free, and I felt elemental. And Australia is such an ancient and beautiful country. That was something that I didn't learn at school, but I maybe saw it looking out the window of our house from where we lived in Mossman, looking out towards it. But where did I make the break? I can't say there's one specific place. I think just things that are beautiful. The things that are beautiful, things that that happen to you sometimes that are pivotal. They come unannounced, and they happen in ways. I remember the first time I drove over to Western Australia, and I drove through Bridgetown and up and through the Karri Forest, and I stopped the car, and I was just surrounded by wildflowers and huge karri trees and just the mist. And it had an impact on the soul, like little things. Picking up the first time I looked at Van Gogh, it completely threw me. It threw out all my preconceptions about what I thought was good art, and it opened up about 15 more doorways that I didn't have, 10 seconds earlier, and it was given to me by an employee who worked for my mother in our business. Have a look at this, it's a Van Gogh book. I thought, wow, And so there's a number of points, like I was saying, I think somebody asked something like that earlier. There's a number of, it's not like one moment or one point or one thing. There's an increasing number of things, and if you're awake to what they're saying to you, you can benefit from that, So I feel very lucky, because some people aren't offered any opportunities at all, and I probably had some lucky opportunities, but I certainly always loved to draw, and I love looking at art books, and and when you see even work I've personally witnessed myself, like within my classes, I've seen things that people have done that have really sort of shocked me by their originality, and I've even reacted almost where I threw up a wall against them because I didn't actually understand where they were coming from, until later there was a kind of strange ambiguity happened that you become educated by almost by your own ignorance, by admitting your lack of perception. So all working with drawing classes has done for me is just to hopefully leave my mind open enough to receive as much information and authenticity as I can without myself, for whatever reason, censoring it. You're constantly under challenge, and we have, especially the responsibility I would take as a drawing facilitator is in a way a really huge responsibility, because you're dealing with people's feelings, and that's the most valuable thing that people have got. And if you trample on them or underestimate them or misinterpret them, people can get really hurt, you know. So I try to avoid that as much as possible and focus on positive strategy and the establishment of signature and validity and claim in what people are doing, so people can have ownership of the things they feel without feeling threatened, which is, you know, increasingly, you know, when you live in a media, and we live in a media and culture society, a lot of people feel, particularly original people who are pretty highly sensitive, intelligent people, do feel threatened, and they feel awkward, or they feel a bit silly or strange or something like that.
Yeah.
You know? A lot of the time when people draw, we draw something, and we are under the belief that we are drawing that thing, but we're the ones who are being drawn, we're the ones who have been pulled around inside and moved around the paper. So I think there's a reverse consciousness operates when you're drawing, that we're not actually the drawer.
Yeah.
We think we're the drawer, you know. So I'm really interested in dualities, in opposition. So when people say they're a dreadful drawer, immediately my ears prick up and think, wonderful, they probably really got something in there, you know.
Yeah.
But if they tell me they've done 15 degrees and the world's greatest drawers, I'm waiting for the sound of them hitting the ground, you know. And I meet a lot of people who call themselves artists. I hate the word artist. It's a terrible, horrible word that people throw around too easily.
What do you feel? What's it represent, artist?
Artist. It's a damaged word, you know. It's a damaged institution. The art world, the art scene is. There's so much. There's a lot of nepotism, and there's a lot of sort of almost, for want of kind of almost an incestuousness that operates in the art culture. Like, I'm talking about the investment culture in the art scene. That's why I'm not really a big fan of the art scene, or I don't go to many of those dues, you know, because a lot of it operates on fad and plagiarism, and you know, there's that sort of boutique fashion parade element connected with the art world. I'm not saying it's all like that, but there's an aspect to it that really doesn't suit me. Yeah, you know, because I wouldn't use the word artist very lightly. You know, yeah, it's not. It's a hard word. It's a hard word. You know, because I think we need to find some better words to describe these states of mind, because there's people. You could call a fisherman an artist.
Yeah.
You know, you can call a butterfly an artist.
So do you find within your facilitation there is a different language going on?
In my facilitation, I kind of feed off the forces that are at play at that moment in the class, and I look at the kind of questions that have been raised from the people at the tables and how that fits in to the strategies that I can offer through my own experience and what I believe could be good strategies and good opportunities.
Yeah.
So again, it's a question then of constantly raising questions about the various realities and things that people go through. Because, you know, when you're drawing, you're not just drawing on one level. You're not just most of the decisions you're making when you're drawing are actually invisible. They're not actually visible decisions. They're decisions that are coming from an intuitive mechanism that we don't. It's like looking for the switch in the hallway when you come home at night. You know, you're feeling your hand, just trying. Like, it's kind of, you know what I mean. Like, it's searching for something that actually you can only feel it, not necessarily actually see it. So drawing for me is very, very much an intuitive thing. It's very limiting if you're just going to hang the images out to dry on a vanishing point and say, okay, I've done a wonderful drawing of a portrait or a picture of a dog or something like that, and say, look, I can do this, you know. But by doing that, you can be rubbing yourself out, because you become a bystander. It's like watching an accident and say, oh my God, you know, I don't want to talk about the blood and gore, but I heard the cars crash, but like, we're not bystanders, we're participants in our experience, and very much so. You read the autobiographies and the commentaries of all the great practitioners, and all they talk about is developing insights into their experience. They're almost talking about the non-visual aspect of their translations. They're not talking about a fixed narrative. They're talking about constantly even subverting themselves and testing and challenging their perceptions and their perceptions of reality and what they feel. So that translational stuff is really super central to it all. Yeah.
And I noticed you use music during the session. What?
Yeah, I use music as a kind of defrosting process. So, because a lot of people come into a drawing class in a sort of state of terror, and they're a little bit feeling intimidated, maybe inadequate, unsure. I think the music just helps to shift people, whether they like the music or not. You can't exactly tell. It's very hard to play DJ in a class, but I use the music to help shift people, because sometimes music can be very soothing and very it's mobilising. Even if it's mobilising someone negatively, someone might say, "I hate that music," put something else on. Well, that at least it's mobilising them, you know. So I use the music, as a kind of a catalyst to people's creativity. That's all.
I think we're good. Well done, Ryan.
I've overloaded you. I'm giving you.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
Hello.
You're on film. We're making film.
Sorry.
Hello.
It's Verity and it's Terry. Yeah,
Nice
Terry's
to meet you.
doing a little doco about dynamic drawing. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Verity is a very original artist, very powerful artist, and has an absolutely incredible range of imagery that is very, very intimate. You know, she's very connected and accessible as a drawer. Yeah. Just saying how much I like Verity's drawings and artwork.
Thanks, guys.
But Verity, you say something. You asked Verity something anyway. How are you feeling about your artwork?
How this dynamic drawing? How did that?
How did it all sort of? I actually was a model first. I didn't even know I even liked drawing, and then just kind of saw what people were doing and the way Ron sort of like orchestrated the class or unorchestrated it.
Yeah. And, very good at that. I noticing.
Yeah.
Good on you.
And so I was like, I want to give this a go, and then worked out that actually it just like opened up something in like really deep, and now I feel like I've just worked out what I need to do in life. Yeah.
Verity is a true modern primitive, you know, like she's fantastic, neon primitive. Her work's really powerful, and there's sometimes I work with some people like with Hannah and who was here before, Sarah Needhart who did these, you know, Sarah. And there's such an obvious power in their work that I feel sort of blessed. I feel like, oh God, this person is not only I'm happy in their class, but they're actually like going to be by their sheer presence, they're going to be a catalyst to everybody else in the class, because they're going to blow people out because their work has that sort of power in it, you know what I mean? Like, but it has a kind of underground, like a really powerful resonance. And I feel like Verity's one of those people who, whenever anyone looks at Verity's work, I just get like, you can't but be knocked over by what she does. And there's a few, naturally. There's a few of them around.
Now you've discovered this, or you've unchanged. Where are you taking it?
I've got a studio in my house, and I do it. I love it. I do it because I love it. I don't do it because of any other reason. And I guess I'm just going to let it take me where it needs to take me. I don't really know yet, but it's about making art and being brave and just pushing. Just don't get comfortable. Like push. He told me that.
But she knew that. It just took me to get her to admit it.
Yeah,
that's all, you know. And you know, people rave on about structure and how clever this is and clever that, and you know, you've got to know your techniques, girl, and all the rest of it. Technique, structure has to come from energy. It has to come from the raw energy of who you are. It's how do you house your ideas? How do you move your ideas? How heavy do they weigh? You know, what you need a truck? You can go to them. But technique can be a real smokescreen for people's progress in their practice.
Yeah.
And that's why I like when you get people like Verity and Hannah and Sarah come through, who are obviously sitting right on their language. They're really hooked into their language. And you think, wow, because some people could take a whole lifetime or years to get anywhere near that place.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, wow, this is great. Actually, I'm actually looking at someone who's actually undamaged, who's actually got through it all without getting injured. It's like someone who ran through a bloody minefield, didn't get blown up by culture,
It can be like that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of your work now.
Cool.
11 o'clock tomorrow we're here.
No, the pick up the paint.
Oh yeah, 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for putting your work in. Sorry, Verity.